I still remember the scent of that steakhouse. It was rich and savory, a perfect blend of grilled meat and expensive wine. That was our place, Claire's and mine, the spot where we celebrated every milestone, every little victory. And that night, I was absolutely convinced, would be the biggest milestone of all. The small velvet box in my coat pocket felt heavier than any history textbook I'd ever carried. I was 31 years old, a high school history teacher who was completely, madly in love with a brilliant and incredibly driven lawyer. I'd practiced my speech 100 times in my head, picturing her teary-eyed smile as I slipped the engagement ring onto her finger. The moment finally came, right after the dessert plates were cleared away. I took a deep breath, slid off my chair, and got down on one knee. The restaurant buzzed with conversation around us, but in that moment, my entire world had shrunk to the space between me and her. I opened the box, and the diamond caught the dim, romantic light just right. I poured my heart out, talking about our future, about growing old together, about all the dreams I had for us. But the teary-eyed smile I'd spent weeks imagining never appeared. Instead, Claire's face was a mask of, was it pity? "Nate, get up," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm, cutting through my hopeful haze. "Please, don't do this here." My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. Back at our apartment, the silence was deafening, a thick, heavy blanket smothering the air. She finally broke it, explaining her decision. Her career, her laser-focused path to making partner at one of the biggest law firms in the city, demanded everything she had. Marriage, she said, was a distraction she simply couldn't afford. It wasn't a not right now. It was a not with you. It was a choice, a clear and deliberate choice, and she hadn't chosen me. Within 3 days, her side of the closet was empty. The apartment that once felt so full of love and laughter now felt vast and hollow, echoing with the ghost of a future that had just been erased. The first few months after she left were a blur of grading papers and trying desperately to forget. I buried myself in my work, sponsoring the history club, chaperoning school dances, doing anything and everything I could to fill the gaping hole in my evenings. My friends, bless their hearts, tried to set me up on dates, but my heart just wasn't in it. It felt like I was betraying a memory, even though the relationship itself was long dead. I was completely heartbroken, totally adrift. I felt like a failure, not just in love, but in life itself. I was the guy whose proposal was rejected in favor of a corner office. About a year later, I was making a conscious effort to re-engage with the world. I decided to go to a fundraiser for the public library. I've always loved books, I love history, so it seemed like a safe bet. And that's where I met her, Sophie. She was a children's librarian, and she was in her element, animatedly telling a story to a small group of kids who were hanging on her every word. She had this laugh that was just pure, unadulterated joy. We started talking, first about books, naturally, and then about everything else. It was so easy, so effortless. There was no pretense, no hidden agenda. With Claire, I had often felt like I was just a supporting character in her grand life story. But with Sophie, it felt like we were co-writing our own. She made me feel seen, truly valued for exactly who I was, a slightly nerdy history teacher who got way too excited about the Civil War. We took things slow. Our dates were wonderfully simple. Long walks in the park, exploring dusty old bookshops, and cooking together in my quiet kitchen. It was a gentle, unfolding kind of love, the kind that builds a solid foundation brick by brick, without any rush. A year after we met, I found myself with another ring in my pocket. But this time, there was no fancy steakhouse, no pressure, no performance. We were sitting on a blanket in the park where we had our third date, a thermos of lukewarm coffee between us. When I asked her to marry me, her eyes filled with the happy tears had once dreamed of seeing. Her yes was immediate and full of laughter. 6 months after that, we were married. It was a small ceremony, just our family and closest friends gathered in a beautiful little garden. It wasn't about the show, it was about the promise we were making to each other. Life with Sophie was a beautiful, comfortable rhythm. We bought a house in a quiet neighborhood with a big backyard, perfect for our golden retriever, Scout, and soon after, our little family began to grow. First came our daughter Lily, with her mother's bright eyes and my curious spirit. Then, 2 years later, came Grace, In between changing diapers and late-night feedings, I even went back to school and earned my master's degree in educational administration. Life was full. It was chaotic, loud, and utterly perfect. I was happy, deeply and contentedly happy, in a way I never knew was even possible. Then came the day I never saw coming. It was about 4 years after the breakup. Claire's firm had taken on a pro bono case for my school district. I was on the committee assigned to work with them, and I walked into the conference room to find her sitting at the head of the table. She looked the same, but different, still impeccably dressed, still radiating that intense, corporate energy. But there were faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes that I didn't remember being there before. My heart did a strange little flit, a ghost of an old reflex from a life I no longer lived. Just then, Sophie walked in, her hand finding mine. She was very pregnant with our second daughter, Grace, and she was absolutely glowing. "Oh, sorry, am I interrupting?" she asked with that warm smile that always melted my heart. "Not at all," I said, squeezing her hand. "Claire, I'd like you to meet my wife, Sophie." "Sophie, this is Claire." The handshake between them was brief. Throughout the meeting, as we discussed legal strategies and school policies, I mentioned little things from my life. How Lily had just started talking, how I was juggling my master's thesis with coaching the debate team. It wasn't intentional, not some passive-aggressive jab. It was just my life. It was who I was now. But I saw something flicker in Claire's eyes each time I spoke, a shadow of regret. I couldn't be sure. She was the consummate professional, sharp and focused as ever. And, true to her reputation, she won the case for us, securing much-needed funding for the district. A few months after the case wrapped up, a mutual friend told me what happened. Claire had a breakdown, a full-on collapse right in the middle of a partners meeting. She had finally made partner, the very thing she had sacrificed our relationship for. But the victory, my friend said, felt hollow to her. She resigned, walking away from the firm, from the entire life she'd poured everything into building. The last I heard, she was working in legal aid. Normal hours. Much less pay, but maybe, just maybe, more purpose. Meanwhile, my life just kept getting better. I was promoted to assistant principal at my school. And then, our family became a party of 5 with the arrival of our son, Jack. The house is nosier than ever. My hair has more gray in it than it used to, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's funny, I look back at that night in the steakhouse, the night Claire said no. At the time, it felt like the absolute worst night of my life, the end of my world. But now, all these years later, I see it for what it truly was, the beginning. It was the painful, necessary ending that pushed me onto a different path. A path that led me to Sophie, to our children Lily, Grace, and Jack. It led me to this messy, beautiful, wonderful life. That rejection wasn't a door closing in my face. It was a door opening to a kind of happiness I couldn't have even imagined for myself. And for that, in a strange way, I'll always be grateful. Thanks for listening to my story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.